Hello and welcome to Introduction to Nmap. In this video, we will focus only on port scanning techniques. In particular, we'll focus on dash P switch. Now, we're gonna cover just what is port and what is port scanning and why we scan ports. Now, in computer networking, a port is a logical construct used to identify, very specific process. If you want, any type of application, if you want, to which the network data is directed to it. Now, network ports allow multiple applications to connect to the same port at the same time without having them interfere with each other. Okay. And usually ports are identified by a specific number called a port number, which is included in a packet header of a data packet. Now, there are different applications and services use different port numbers, which are standardized by the IANA to prevent conflicts between different services running on the same machine or network. Now, ports, think about ports is a type of software abstraction that is utilized to differentiate communication channels with the host machine. Think about it like it's something like similar to IP addresses, which are used to identify devices on networks. And instead of identifying machines, however, ports identify specific application being used on a single machine. An instance of this is when your web browser connects to TCP port 80, okay, using HTTP URL by default, obviously. If you choose to use the secure HTTPS, then in this case, the browser will automatically try to connect to port 443. Now, the port ranges from 0 to 65535. Now, we know that port 0 is invalid. But however, nothing stops someone from specifying it in the header field. Like some malicious Trojan backdoors listen on port 0 of compromised system as a stealthy way to offer illegitimate access without appearing on most port scans. So to combat this, Nmap does allow scanning of port 0. Now, here we have well-known ports, registered ports, dynamic or private ports. Well-known ports are usually reserved for very specific application, like port 22, for example, for SSH, port 80 for HTTP, port 25 for SMTP, and there are plenty more examples. Registered ports are from 1024 to 49151. They're registered with IANA. Most of these are not as commonly used as well-known ports. The key difference is that unprivileged users can bind to these ports and then run services on their registered port. And here we have dynamic or private ports from 49,152 up to 65,535. Now, why we do port scanning? One of the reasons is for security reasons and for defense. Uh, port scanning is is an important security tool when used appropriately. A port scan is a technique used to discover which ports are open and accessible on a network device. By scanning for open ports, an attacker can identify potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited to gain unauthorized access to a system. However, for defense, we have security professionals can also use port scanning to identify potential security risks and vulnerabilities in a system. By conducting a port scan, security expert can identify which ports are open and may be vulnerable to attack and take steps to secure those ports. Okay, now we have completed the theory part. Now, Now we're gonna go into the practical part to see how can we use the dash P switch in Nmap for different things. Now the setup I have here, I have using I'm using UTM, which runs only on Macintosh computer. And here you can see that I have multiple stations. The only two machines that are running basically Metasploitable 2 and Kali Linux. And here you could see the Metasploitable. It's running. Okay. MSF admin. Okay. Yes. Admin. I just want to know the IP address of it. Okay. So we know the IP address is 192.168.0.138. Now it's time to go to the Kali Linux. Okay. Now, let's clear everything on the screen. I know the first thing we need to do right now is that let's do Nmap map dash P port 80 comma 443 the HTTP and HTTPS, and we're gonna scan the Metasploitable 2, which is 192.168.0.138. So here you can see the result. Here you could see that how long it took, and now we know that these ports are open, except for HTTPS is closed. We know the MAC address of it. Now let's try to do another type of scan in map dash P1 to 100 for the same IP. Okay, so right now we told it to scan for open ports from port 1 to port 100. Okay, now there's also another option I could use by saying dash P dash, and this means what? This is alias for all ports. Now here you could see the number of open ports. You can see FTP port, telnet, domain, HTTP, NetBIOS, shell, and all these. And we have also interesting uncommon ports here. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, if you want to scan for dash P only for DNSs, so any service starts with the DNS, and we start with so we type DNS star 192.168.0.138. Let's see how the output will look like. Now here we know that here is our the ports, but they are closed. Okay. Now let's see another option. Let's say, for example, you want to scan multiple IPs looking for port 80. So again, so we do nmap, then I will go back here and type 80, and then I'll make a space, 92.141, for example. Okay, okay. Not all of them might be up and running, but this is just, to show you example. Okay, so what do we see from here? Here we see there's open port for this IP, and here we have another open port also for another system. It's 141, ends with 141. Now there's also another option, like if I do nmap, okay, just remove those IPs, and I say uh, for example, like scan for 138-141. So scan any IP, starting from 138 to 141. So here I could see that there are only two machines are up and running. Here, the one that ends with 138 and 141. Okay. Now, if I want to scan the whole network here, okay, looking to see what type of machines are up and running, and here I could see, well, I don't have to do port 80, just keep it this way, okay, if you want, just remove this, run it again. Okay, now I could see by looking here the number of live IPs. Okay, you could see that there's Linksys box here. There's another system. Okay, so you can see that it scanned for multiple system and identify which ports are currently open. Here I could see that there's an iPhone running. Okay, and here I could see some Samsung. Okay, so this is a printer. You can see that this is a printer running. Okay, so this is as an example. Now, something interesting you could do like this. Okay, and you could do exclude the printer 192.168.0.141. Okay, press enter. So everything got scanned and it stops at here. Okay, for 107 and 138. It did not scan like what we have done previously. Okay, so it skipped the Samsung printer 141. Now, there's also another interesting option you could do is, let's say, for example, 38, you say dash dash top, you could say that the scan number, you specify the number, most common ports. Okay, so top ports, okay, and then you type 10, press enter, and here, if you count those, you could see that there's only 10 ports here. Now, again, I want to say 25. Here you can see that now we have 25 ports. Now, there's also another nice option that Nmap can support loading of targets from external file. Simply, you could create a file, you enter the list of the targets into the file, each separated by, a new line or a space. So let's start with this demo. Cat, and then I'm gonna create this file. I will call it targets, okay, dot text. Okay, now I need to enter the IPs. 68.138 dot, oh, sorry, 0.138, and here I'll put down 192 dot 168 dot 0 dot 141. So I stop right here. Then I will say the Control C to save it. Let's double check targets dot text. Double check if I took only one. The reason why it took only one because I did not type enter and then control, so it canceled the operation. But that's fine. Okay, so let's see Nmap. I'm gonna say dash IL. So dash IL, that's the option to load the target from the from the file we just created. And say targets dot text. Press enter. See, it just load up the IP address. Now, if I done it correctly previously, okay, uh, you will see this that it did scan two IPs at the same time. Now, I hope you found this video lecture useful, and thank you so much for watching.